The Female Man is a feminist science fiction novel penned by American author Joanna Russ in 1975. The narrative unfolds across 4 parallel worlds, each distinct in its temporal and spatial characteristics. The story revolves around 4 women who hold contrasting perspectives on gender roles, sexuality, and womanhood. The central character, Joanna, hails from a world similar to Earth called Joanna's World, set in the 1970s. She possesses intelligence and wit, but in her society, she grapples with the belief that she must downplay her female identity to be taken seriously, leading her to refer to herself as a female man. As these 4 women, Joanna, Janet, Jeannine, and JL, navigate the boundaries between their respective worlds, their preconceived notions about sexuality are challenged, resulting in profound transformations of their beliefs. The novel is structured into 9 sections, each further divided into chapters. While each section frequently adopts the viewpoint of one of the characters, the narrative perspective shifts among them and traverses various time periods. The Female Man received a nomination for the 1975 Nebula Award for Best Novel. It later secured one of the retrospective Tiptree Awards in 1996 and the 2002 Galactic Spectrum Hall of Fame Award in 2002. The story begins with the arrival of Janet Eva Sunbellin, who suddenly appears in Joanna's world in 1969. Janet originates from Whileaway, a future world set 800 years after a gender-targeting plague wiped out the male population. Simultaneously, Jeannine Dodier, a librarian, resides in a world gripped by the Great Depression. Janet encounters Jeannine during a Chinese New Year gala and subsequently brings her to Joanna's world, a society on the cusp of the feminist movement in the 1970s. Joanna takes Janet under her wing and escorts her to a party to observe the dynamics between men and women. However, Janet quickly becomes the target of unwanted advances from a man. In response, she assertively rebuffs his advances and admonishes his behavior. This astonishing turn of events leaves all witnesses dumbfounded, given that Joanna's world upholds the belief in male superiority over women. Janet confides her desire to experience life with a typical family from her time, prompting Joanna to introduce her to the Wildings. Janet warmly greets Laura Rose, the Wildings' daughter, who immediately admires Janet's unwavering commitment to independent womanhood. Their connection deepens, and Laura Rose acknowledges her attraction to Janet, attempting to initiate a romantic relationship. However, their feelings lead to a significant breach of societal norms, as same-sex relationships in Joanna's world are as taboo and prohibited as cross-generational relationships are in Whileaway. The narrative then shifts to follow Joanna and Jeannine as they journey to Janet's home in Whileaway. During their visit, they meet Janet's wife, Victoria. Joanna becomes suspicious when Victoria metaphorically references a bear caught between 2 worlds, prompting Joanna to return with Jeannine to her own world. Upon their arrival in Jeannine's world, they embark on a summer vacation at Jeannine's brother's house in the Poconos. Jeannine's mother persistently interrogates her about her love life and pressures her to settle down. To meet her mother's expectations and find love, Jeannine reluctantly goes on multiple dates with men but fails to find a suitable match. She begins to question her sense of reality but ultimately decides to conform to her prescribed role as a woman in society. Jeannine contacts her boyfriend, Cal, and agrees to marry him. Meanwhile, Janet, Jeannine, Joanna, and Laura spend time together at Laura's home. Laura attempts to commend Janet's status in Whileaway, but Janet responds by revealing that her world views her merely as a disposable multidimensional explorer, not an individual with personal worth. Janet harshly labels herself as foolish. In the middle of the night, Joanna, unable to sleep, discovers that Janet and Jeannine are also awake. However, they find themselves no longer in Laura's house, but suddenly transported to a completely new world. The women find themselves in JL's world, governed by Alice J.L. Reasoner. JL resides in a world entrenched in a 40-year-long conflict between men and women. In this divided society, JL works for the Bureau of Comparative Ethnology, an organization dedicated to studying people's counterparts across parallel worlds. She confesses that she orchestrated the gathering of the 4 women because they essentially represent 4 versions of the same woman. JL transports the women behind enemy lines, ostensibly negotiating with a male organizer from the Bureau. Initially, the male members of the organization appear to advocate for gender equality. However, JL soon realizes that the male organizer still harbors beliefs in women's inferiority. She reveals her role as a ruthless assassin, dispatching the man before swiftly returning the women to her home in Vermont. Upon their return, Jael divulges her true motive for bringing the four women together. Her plan is to clandestinely establish all-female bases in their respective worlds, aiming to empower women and foment a rebellion against male-dominated societies. Joanna and Jeannine decide to support Jael's cause and introduce the female soldiers into their own worlds. However, Janet, due to Whileaway's prevailing pacifism, refuses to participate. As time passes, Joanna and Jeannine appear to grow stronger as individuals, eagerly anticipating the prospect of initiating a gender revolution. Janet remains unconvinced by Jael's recruitment efforts. Jael responds by asserting that the absence of men in Whileaway is not due to a plague but the outcome of a war between men and women that led to the extinction of the male species. Janet rejects this explanation, causing friction with Joanna and Jeannine. Ultimately, at the end of the novel, the women disband and return to their respective worlds. After their return, each woman carries a fresh perspective on life, their respective worlds, and their identities as women. The novel concludes as the narrator bids farewell to the female man before releasing it into the universe. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.